the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Tone Deaf Bevan.
Yo, yo, yo. Is that my old school gangster rap?
No.
OG gangster rap name?
That is from Suzanne, who began to worry about you.
Uh-oh. Wait, did I sing on the air? Oh, that's bad.
She's worried about you because she said you might need a sabbatical, like a rest in the country, because you think Elvis movies are good.
Oh.
And she said, don't get me wrong, I like musicals, but Joshua is wrong on so many levels.
Oh, Suzanne.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to agree to disagree because we've got a lot to cover today.
Yeah.
But you're wrong.
No, you're absolutely not wrong. And then we giggled heartily over that Eddie Murphy clip where he's doing Elvis. I don't know if it was Delirious or Raw. He was Delirious. The first comedy special he did. It's like maybe 82, 83.
Okay.
And he had on the red leather suit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he does a very funny Elvis about how he's like, he's so good they put him in movies. And why? Yeah. Why? And it's like, hey, Elvis, we have to win, because he has to sing everything. Hey, Elvis, we have to win this race. We're going to win this race. I mean, every line is,
nice.
I
love it.
Oh, you thirsty? Lemonade, that cool, refreshing drink. I mean, it's so fucking funny. It's so fucking funny. So yeah, Suzanne and I giggled heartily over that while we made fun of you for being tone deaf.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I have to.
You're wrong.
Not
both
at all.
wrong, but
I also have to address the text I got from Matthew, who I told him it was on Memorial Day. I told him he was dead to me on Memorial Day, which was funny.
Matt.
Yeah, because he said, I love musicals. I think Biggie is innocent, and there's a Capriati's behind my house.
He made a list.
Yeah. And I said, you are dead to me, ironically, on Memorial Day weekend.
I love he just bullet point that. Like, here's all that's wrong with that last episode.
It's in a list, yeah. And I said, have you been holding this in because it's your way of breaking up with me?
Oh.
Yeah. And then he kind of softens and says, so, I mean, Biggie could and maybe was involved. But I think at its core, the Biggie and Tupac murders are prime examples of the danger of listening to what people are saying and not talking to the source in general.
Oh.
I believe most beefs in rap can be solved by two dudes sitting in a room talking it out. We agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
We agree on that.
Sure.
But definitely Biggie's involved. Anyway.
Okay.
I mean, it was his gun. So anyway.
I don't know enough about it. I would love to hear more.
No, you don't.
Someday.
Yeah, no, you don't. Oh, okay. Yeah, we might.
Hint.
I'm considering it. I do think it would be an interesting series.
No, I totally do. I think it would be too. Interesting.
So this week's episode is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors at Graveline Tours. If you go to graveline.rip, you can see, I think it's up to like 6 different tours. And here it is Pride Month, and they have an LGBTQ tour.
Cool.
Yeah. The tour guide is like, Miss Velma or something in a large wig. So.
Oh, the tour guide is in drag?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Now you want to go.
Now, yeah. I mean, that's even more fun than I thought before. But
exactly.
I don't know how it could have gotten more fun, but that's
now it's even more fun for you. So yeah, graveline.rip. And if you're in and around Southern California and you really want something unique and fun and even I'm going to say educational to do, and even if how much you love true crime, you're going to learn something. Please check out our friends at Graveline. Tipster Cindy sent me a picture of a bottle of liquid turmeric.
Liquid turmeric?
Yeah. And it's the same brand that I use, but I use capsules. I take capsules.
Okay.
And I said, does it taste as bad as I think it would? And she goes, no, it tastes like salty chicken.
Okay. That does not sound delicious.
No, I think Cindy should resign from her new job as the marketing PR director for Shitty Tasting Turmeric Society or whatever. Salty chicken, Cindy, you have not won me over. I'm going to continue it's probably gets in your system faster if it's liquid, but no, ma'am.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. You don't taste when you eat a capsule, right?
No, sometimes like a little bit of aftertaste, but mostly what it does is when I'm putting them in my little pill holders, it makes my hands orange or yellow. It looks like I have scarlet fever or whatever.
Is it like a pressed pill or
it's a capsule with
like a
powder in it.
Oh, powder inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of weird. I can't even imagine the I mean, she showed me the liquid form and it's the brand I use, but I was like,
yeah, you have to taste that.
I feel right. I was going to say, I feel like it's your fault because you talked about the golden tea.
Yeah, that actually sounds like easier to make golden tea with liquid.
Right.
Because when you use the powder, you kind of have to
mix it.
There's a trick. There's definitely a cooking trick to mix it better. You mix it with a small amount of water or milk.
Oh.
To make a little sludge.
Okay.
You mix that up, let it hydrate that, and then you put it in the big pot.
I thought you were going to say like a coffee frother.
I mean, that would
little frothers.
I'm sure that would help. That sounds delicious too.
No.
It's good. I mean, any hot milk with sugar drink, it's tasty. Like it's good. But
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. No, it's not.
Keep eating your capsules.
Thank you. I love salt and I like chicken. Salty chicken sounds like a very bad male stripper.
Yeah.
Very, very bad male stripper.
That's the strip club in Bakersfield.
I was to say Bakersfield.
Yeah.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to stage 2. The dance stylings of salty chicken. Let's hear it for him.
I worked with him for a little while.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy, but I mean.
Yeah. I can't. I love you, Cindy, but no, I cannot. Yeah. So who sent me the wonderful, or maybe I just saw it on Instagram, and I sent it to Joshua this morning thinking it was a wonderful wake-up call. But apparently it did not go the way I thought. Yeah, that's what I said. Right. I did not know that when lionesses are in heat, they need to mate between 20 and 40 times a day. And if her man can't keep up, she bites his balls to demand action.
Oh, God. And the picture, she's in there.
Oh, yeah. I thought she was in his butthole. And then because his little legs are up in the air, like he has been surprised because there's a female with
this poor guy.
Yeah. Who's biting his little lion nutsack.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And then his face, the one with his face, he's like, God damn it. Again. And then Joshua, brought up one male services a bunch of females. So do you think they all go into heat at the same time?
I don't know. That's what I wonder.
How women's periods sync up when they live together?
I've heard that that's actually a myth, but I wonder, I mean, if they're all at the same time.
Yeah, he's
20 times what? A pride is 8, 10?
Do they make like lion Gatorade?
I have to hope so.
Or he has just like a saline drip so he doesn't get dehydrated?
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Even too much for you?
That's too much.
we decided that Joshua identifies as a lion.
It is LGBTQ plus Pride Month. The plus for me is I identify as a lion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think you're just a weird furry, but if you identify as a lion, that's great. What is it? Is it called a pride? And then there's like one boy and a bunch of girls, or I don't know how it works.
It's one, and then there's maybe a beta. There's the alpha lion, and then there's a beta who apparently picks up a lot of slack at 20 times.
Because that King of the Jungle looked tired and crabby. Yeah, right. Maybe it's because a girl had his nutsack and her sharp, pointy teeth.
Yeah.
See how lucky you are? Most women have like flat teeth.
I usually say no teeth, but my rule is no teeth.
Live a little.
But you do the way you want to do.
I'm just saying she bites him in the balls to get his attention.
Oh my God.
She bites him in the balls.
Oh,
is all I'm saying.
That's lion foreplay. I don't want that though.
Yeah, you said it was the most unappealing seduction technique you'd ever. And I was like, noted.
Can you imagine? You're just Netflixing. You're just hanging out.
You're sleeping is how I pictured it.
Oh, jeez.
You're sleeping and suddenly you're like, what's tugging on my scrotum?
Just
yeah. If that doesn't get you in the mood, I don't know.
Oh, honey, you up? Okay.
Yeah. You up?
Sure.
Yeah. It's the lion form of texting you up.
What are you doing?
Yeah, really. WYD. Don't even spell out the words. Just bite them in the balls. And that's how kids these days, I can't even. Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. So let's see. Thank you to Tipster Michelle for I didn't even show Joshua the 2 unicorn pillows and the unicorn socks.
No.
The socks when you put
Do you
your
like
feet
unicorns?
up. I sometimes. Yeah. The socks when you put your feet up on the ottoman, the bottom says, "I'm a badass unicorn. I'll do what I want."
Nice. That's awesome.
One of the pillows is sort of amazing. It's a unicorn laying on its side from the back, and it's got its like arm, hoof, whatever raised. You know, they have like, hoofs.
Hoofs, yeah.
But there's a middle finger.
Nice.
Somehow, I don't know how. And it says in large black letters, "No."
Yes.
At the bottom.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's you, for sure.
She said, "I saw this and had to get it for you."
That's awesome.
I was like, "You don't have to give me anything." But I do really gravitate toward that one, if I don't say so myself. And I want to thank our newest patron, Tipster Patty, who came in at the dedicated detective level. And I am so grateful. I actually met Patty several years ago. She is a friend of our friend of this podcast, Charlotte. Patty is a friend of Charlotte's in her book group. I think they've been friends for a long time. I thought Patty was already a patron on Patreon, but here she is showing up in amazing, I started saying amazing form. I also have to say, I'm trying not to let people's pronunciations bother me, except that a local news reporter today who's close to my age, she's not a kid, is reporting from the West Hollywood Pride Parade. And she said, "It's so bright and vibrant. It's like a cacophony of color."
A cacophony.
And I
At
had to go lie
parade,
down.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I was like, does she know what she has done?
I think it's fitting. I like it.
Cacophony of color. And I thought, bless her heart, but that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Cacophony. It took me a while. I was like, figure out what the fuck. I was like, what could that be? Yeah. And I thought she was being funny. Like cock-a-doodle or something. But no, cacophony.
And I've done that too. Like if you've
cacophony.
If you've only ever not that specific.
Oh, you've only ever seen it.
If you've only ever read a word.
Yeah.
And then you say it and you.
Yeah. I get that. We've all, done that. I mean, I fuck up on this podcast constantly. And half the time I'm like, I don't care, Matt, leave it in. Right. But, I hope people will forgive me. But I feel like there's something in me right now because everyone's mispronunciations are annoying me. Like cacophony bothered me. Last night, I'm trying to go to sleep listening to a podcast and a very, very brilliant, respected director said, clandestine. Like Frankenstein, only he's quieter. Clandestine. I was like, no, you did not. Yeah. No, you did not. Clandestine.
I like it.
I was like, is this like honoring your Jewish heritage or?
It's
because it could be a family name or something.
Yeah.
I was so pissed. Anyway, I have to get off my soapbox. So a piece of information came through this week that I thought was really fascinating. And it was a clinical study by 2 psychiatrists, Dr. Howe and Dr. Vickery, on trauma victims and true crime.
Oh.
I know. I was fascinated. So obviously they say 72% of listeners or viewers to true crime are women. We knew that.
Sure.
That's not surprising. But what was surprising is that a large percentage of listeners, viewers have experienced some sort of trauma. And I don't mean like your mom wouldn't let you, go to the movies. Big, bad, trauma like what you're listening to.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you're attracted to listening to it.
I would think it would be just the opposite.
Sure. I mean, I would think that too, but this is also a safe way to maybe sort through some of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was trying to figure it out, like, someone who's a survivor.
Yeah.
Interested. And we know, a little bit because of the rape thing, not using the rape word.
Mm-hmm.
And people got very, upset about that, and not upset at us personally, but upset at the whole thing we were talking about. But
no, totally. I mean, and it was a good thing because I learned, hey, this is triggering.
Everybody did. Yeah. It's,
don't, change your language, dude. Okay, sweet. I can do that.
Yeah. And I was grateful you did that. And I was grateful they felt, comfortable enough to let us know how they felt.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's just fascinating to me to think that a large percentage of people who've experienced, at probably varying degrees of trauma, but they were identified as survivors. So I'm like, I thought it was pretty interesting that Nicole Della Mora was fascinated with true crime.
Yeah.
I don't think she's obsessed, but she definitely enjoys watching,
watching and listening.
Yeah. I just thought it was, very interesting. And they named some of the reasons why. And, the one I always thought was it's a cautionary tale.
Right.
You don't want to be in that environment. You don't want to do what someone else did. You want to have all the tools you can.
Fuel up all your knowledge so that it doesn't happen to you again.
Yeah. Or ever, hopefully.
Well, it doesn't happen to you ever, but if you already experienced it, then there's a fear of it happening again. So this is how I can keep myself from that again. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was very interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah. I was like, trauma victims. Oh, this explains a lot. I mean, and the human experience is traumatic, but they were specifically talking to, victims and survivors. It was just I thought it was a fascinating study. So this week's case is unsolved, and it was brought to us around the back door. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Not one fucking word. Not one fucking word. You can't stop yourself.
I wasn't gonna.
The service entrance, I don't know what to say, how to say it without, I can't.
Oh, boy.
Untraditional delivery method.
Okay.
I found out about this case from the Clermont County sheriff, the actual sheriff, who I had a lovely conversation with yesterday, and we're going to be covering a long unsolved homicide, probably not till July, because we're a little bit ahead, probably because Joshua is he shows up and he kind of pushes me when I'd like to lay down and cry. So we're a little bit ahead, and we're both going to be out of town at the same time in June, which is perfect. So I am going to Kentucky for what was going to be 10 days, and I've extended it to like 2 weeks now because I have to. And I'm happy to do that. It's just, securing Siren Marie Bitchface Morgan Humphreys,
Sure.
Yeah. So I emailed a sheriff and said, hey, I always like to start with law enforcement. And, and so I don't just read Wikipedia articles, and I'm sure everybody knows that by now. So I like to start with law enforcement. I prefer to ask for permission rather than forgiveness, but hey, if they don't give me permission, fuck them, I'll take it anyway.
Right.
I'll do, what I have to do to cover the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was looking around at this very layered case and came up with a a couple of phone numbers to the Clermont County Sheriff's Office and a couple of the articles. This case really hasn't been brought up in the press since 2017 was the last time. So I think it's time to shove it in people's faces again. I'm just going to say perhaps the person of interest is still alive. Anyway, I know. So I emailed this sheriff, not knowing he had been promoted and he was actually the sheriff.
Oh, okay. So you emailed him thinking he was a detective on the case, and now he's the actual sheriff of the county. Okay,
because he had some involvement with this case, even though it's very old. He'd come in a couple of times,
nice.
in like other years, not when it first happened. So I emailed him and said, I like to start with permission, not forgiveness. I'd like to cover this case. I host a podcast, blah, blah. Very short.
Okay.
And then I thought, you know what? I found a couple phone numbers, which I'm going to give you too at the end of this, but I found his, not knowing it was actually his.
Oh, okay.
And I called it because I was going to leave a voicemail and say,
sure.
I just emailed you in case it doesn't come through. I just want you to know who I am, what I want to do.
Nice.
And he answers and says, hello.
Oh, wow.
And I went, I was completely thrown off, which doesn't happen often to me.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm completely flummoxed here because I expected to leave you a voicemail. I was looking for Sheriff Leahy, and he goes, this is him.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, let me get my shit together here and change my underwear. I was like, I was just going to leave you a voicemail. And I just sent you an email. And he goes, oh, I haven't opened my email yet this morning. And he goes, let me see if I got it. So we're on the phone and he's checking. And he goes, oh, okay, there it is. Just the Tip-Sters? I'm like, yeah. And I go, I'm just still so shocked you answered your phone. And he goes, why shouldn't I? And I go, because most people have a line of, defense. People in much lower ranking positions than you have someone answer the phone or a automated line. He goes, why should people have to jump through hoops to get to me?
Nice.
I'm like, well, I guess you're the guy that everybody wants to talk to.
Yeah.
Because you care.
Okay.
So he spent a long time talking to me.
Wow.
And he said, well, it sounds like I floated a few things, and he's like, sounds like you've done your homework. He goes, you have a lot of background on this case. And I was like, I do, but obviously there's more. And he goes, I think you're leaning the way we're leaning. And I go, I think there's only one way to lean, even though a few other theories had been posited, I think, by the family to kind of maybe soften the blow a little bit.
Okay.
And he goes, where are you from? And I said, Independence, Kentucky. And he said, well, ironically, the person of interest has recently moved there.
Whoa.
And I go, interesting. Very interesting.
Wow.
He goes, he's still alive. And I'm like, awesome. Okay. And he goes, and the next time you're in town, why don't you stop by and we'll, talk about the case? And I go, well, aren't you lucky? I'm going to be there in a couple weeks.
Wow.
And he goes, oh, would you have time in your schedule? And I'm like, you betcha. So I've extended my trip a few days. Yeah.
Way cool.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this one.
Sweet.
It was even covered on Unsolved Mysteries.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am very excited about this one. And
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited too.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you going to say? I mentioned Othram Labs, and he had not heard of them.
Oh.
So I connected him with Kristen and David Middleman.
Oh, perfect.
Because of this case that we're going to talk about and the one.
So both author might be able to help.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm always amazed when a law enforcement agency has not heard of Othram, but I guess maybe the word doesn't get out to all like smaller districts.
Sure.
And Clermont County is kind of rural. I mean, in 1982 it was much more rural. It's kind of rural. So remind me to tell you about this when we're not talking here, because this case is really great. Okay. It's really great. Okay. So the sheriff mentioned this one in relation to the other, and they're not related, but this case was so fascinating. I knew about part of it, but not the other part. So
okay, so this is a different case.
Yes.
That you're.
Yes.
Okay, so you're still going to be working on that first case, and you're going to do an episode.
Yes.
Soonish.
Yes.
but this is something he brought up to you.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And just like in conversation. And I was like, well, wait, I know this part, but I don't know that part. So this one is from January of 1992.
Okay.
This is also unsolved. This is the case of Carrie Gaskins. And her case has been covered by a couple of podcasts, and there's even a psychological study about the person they thought did it. But the Clermont County Sheriff's Office does not think the person that I knew about that it could have been connected to did not do it. And that is the serial killer Glenn Rogers, which we're going to talk a little bit about him. But because he is such a weirdo with a weird legend that he is, created on his own. But so Carrie Gaskins was stabbed to death in her home, January 28th of 1992. She was 30 years old. She had a 12-year-old daughter, Sherry, and her daughter found her body.
God.
She comes home from school and she finds her mother stabbed to death.
Man.
Her daughter, Sherry, who, is now in her early 40s.
Right.
In so many ways, this has ruined my life. She was so young. She was only 30 and we still had a lot of time. Now, Carrie was not married to Sherry's father. She had a second husband named Kenny Gaskins, and he was a truck driver and he was out of town at the time of her death. And the police have really tried every angle because it's, you start with the people closest.
Right.
And he has been eliminated.
Okay.
He's working on the road and he comes home and his wife is murdered and he has a stepdaughter.
Jeez.
So what's sort of, bizarre is this. I can see why people thought Glenn Rogers did this. Glenn Rogers was geographically desirable. He lived in Hamilton, Ohio. He is on death row in Florida at this moment for a murder in California. And he's suspected, I think he was convicted on 3 and is suspected of 3 others, but he said he's killed 70 people. I think it's a lie.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll see why it's probably a lie. Yeah. So he's suspected of killing others in Ohio, Louisiana, and Mississippi.
Wow.
So he's convicted on 3 and probably 3 others. So he was like a drifter. And I don't like that they give them names. I don't like either of his names. And this man is only 60 years old at this time, today.
Okay.
He was known as the cross-country killer and also the Casanova killer.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. He, his victims are women. He had gone on dates with some of them, and then some of them were sex workers that he picked up.
Jeez.
So he told authorities that he killed, quote, like 70 people. Now he has since said, oh, that was a joke. But this is the part I knew about and was like, poor Carrie Gaskins to be thrown into this pile. Glenn Rogers told his family that he killed Nicole Brown Simpson.
Huh.
Yeah. OJ had hired him to paint his house.
Okay.
And then he hired him to break into Nicole's house and steal earrings he had given her. Because, I want those earrings back.
Okay. OJ, the claim is that OJ hired Glenn to go steal back these earrings. Mm-hmm. And then in the process, murdered her. Mm-hmm. All right.
His story changed. It was like, OJ paid me to, first of all, do you think OJ Simpson finds a street urchin or hangs out at Home Depot? Hey there, sir, would you paint my house?
Yeah.
And he changed his story. First he said he paid me to break into the house and steal earrings he had given Nicole, and he paid me to take her out. So he changes his stories. What's interesting about this whole thing with Carrie Gaskins is that she really fit the victimology of Glenn Rogers. He went after mostly redheaded women in their 30s.
Okay.
His mother was a terrible human being and beat him and beat his father so badly he became disabled. And she was a redhead.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a redhead. And then she left them, left him and his father. And they'd actually done in subsequent years, they've done a psychological report on him. While she fit his victimology, he didn't fit just because of geography. That's not enough. He picked up women at bars or went on dates,
Oh, okay.
Carrie Gaskins is a 30-year-old, busy, married mother of two. She's not hanging out at bars.
Right.
She's not going on dates with other men. It's like she lived in a very rural area of Clermont County. The neighbors told, law enforcement, we don't know each other very well, but she's always nice, says hi, waves.
Sure.
They got to, because of the rural area, law enforcement stopped every single person that went up or down the street in front of Carrie Gaskins' house. Did you see anything? Do you know anything? Because it was just such an odd thing. This lovely young mother stabbed in her home. We're going to get to what might be a theory of who.
Okay.
But in the meantime, Clermont County Detective Mike Robinson remembers the scene at the Gaskins house. He said, I'll always remember it. I was a young road officer at the time, employed for only 8 months. I didn't see her body, but I saw all of the blood. It's a vivid image I haven't forgotten, and I really want to see this solved. He said Carrie Gaskins was stabbed multiple times, and her throat was slashed.
Wow.
She put up a fight, but we think her attacker was someone she was comfortable with in her home. There's no sign of struggle to get in.
Okay.
He also said Carrie Gaskins was an immaculate housekeeper. Everything was in place and clean, except for a horrible crime scene.
Right.
He said, it's something I'm never going to forget. It was my first major crime that I'd ever seen as a law enforcement officer.
Wow.
So about 5 years after, so 1997, Clermont County Sheriff's Office says, we're going to reopen the case. They said they didn't have any new evidence, but they had some new directions.
Okay.
And the new direction at the time was Glenn Rogers. Now, I talked to Sheriff Leahy, and he said, I went to Florida to talk to him. And he just threw this out. And I was like, he goes, do you know Glenn Rogers? I'm like, of course I do. And he goes, of course you do. And then he said, we thought he was connected to a local case. And I'm like, go on.
Right.
So he actually went to Florida. And while he's on death row, Glenn Rogers is on death row, he admitted, he liked to brag about killing Nicole, still stands by that. Said he joked about 70 people, killing 70 people. But, they asked him about Carrie, and he says, yeah, not one of mine. So he denies that one, and he has zero reason to deny it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It could, shave a few years off his death sentence.
Right.
I mean, it could something. He has no reason not to admit it.
Sure. And he's braggadocious about other.
Yes.
So
exactly.
You would think that he would, if he did it, he wouldn't deny.
The only thing that, I don't know how this would go for them, but Glenn Rogers has an innocence project in Canada that's trying to help, prove his innocence. Sheriff Leahy said, ultimately, he denied being the person responsible for Carrie's death, and he had nothing to lose. He had every reason to say that he did it, but he just wouldn't come off of his answer that no, he didn't do it.
Yeah, okay.
So Sheriff Leahy said they're pursuing other suspects. This is the part that might or might not be a stumbling block. It's so difficult. He said when he got on the job, he was impressed with the amount of work that guards on watch had done.
Okay.
And he said they collected things. They had no idea how that might be tested in the future.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
He said, I was overwhelmed at the amount of, cataloging and, everything was in its place. Things I never would have thought, had been collected. So they had done a DNA test again in, I guess, 2012. And they literally tested all the evidence. Now, I don't think that all of it is gone, which is why I told him about Othram, because it's such a terrible thing. You want to be able to solve these cases, but it's like almost it's a slippery slope of how long do you wait before science catches up?
Oh, sure.
Do you run a test on what might be the last piece of evidence left,
right?
And then it's gone, and it doesn't prove anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that more than once. So yeah, it's tough. Her daughter Sherry said, I found the body and I called 911, and because I don't know who killed her, it's absolute torment. She does have ideas on who may have been behind her mother's death. It's sort of interesting.
Okay.
She said, I have my own suspicions about things. It's just really hard to go on just feelings alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Sheriff Leahy and Detective Robinson said, we can't reveal any current suspects while the case is still active, but we strongly believe that Carrie knew her attacker. We feel very strongly about that.
Okay.
So Kenny, her husband, was ruled out as a suspect, but investigators wouldn't say whether her ex, the father of Sherry, her biological father, is a person of interest.
Oh, okay.
Her daughter said, I've just never asked my father if he killed her. It's hard when you don't know who to trust. I just really want to know.
Jeez. Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So her biological dad was in the picture in her life somehow?
I guess in the area.
Okay.
But she had moved on and was married to Kenny, and they were ostensibly happy. And I know she had one other kid. I don't know. They're not naming or, so I don't know if it's a boy or girl, but she had another child, probably with Kenny.
Oh, okay. Younger. With Kenny, the new husband. Okay.
Only had one child with Sherry's biological dad.
Okay.
I thought this was really weird. Sergeant Borger said that most of Carrie's family members have moved away, and I know her daughter lives in another state now. It was like they just couldn't even be in the area after what happened to her. And it said that he had understood many family members and friends feared retaliation. I don't, like if you cooperate with the police on the murder of a friend or family member, who's going to come after you?
Yeah.
Right. Somebody who's still in the area. This isn't a mafia hit.
Yeah.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
I just thought it was, I sometimes not answering is an answer.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's at least very suspicious.
I think that's a really good way to put it. Very suspicious. So Sherry says, I keep going on for a lot of other people. Her death is a huge factor, but it's not my whole life now. She described her mother as being full of jokes. She didn't like to cook, but she was so much fun. She was very loving and happy, and we had lots of time left.
God.
Yeah. Sergeant Borger says, I know there are people who have information on Carrie Gaskins' murder, and they have not forgotten, but please know, neither have the police. It's been many years since this murder, but people have not forgotten, and they're in a place now maybe where they can talk to us, maybe tell us what they know, what they weren't able to tell us before. That's what we're hoping for.
Okay, so they don't. Do you get the impression that they have more evidence that leans toward the father, or
we're not saying it leans anywhere?
Okay, it doesn't.
Allegedly.
Okay,
I think
a
they
suspicion.
do.
Okay.
Yeah, they do. They do, and I don't think everything was used up.
Okay,
which is why I am hoping Othram can help them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm really hoping Othram can help them. And he seemed so fascinated. It just is so strange to me when I say, you have a couple of cold cases. Have you heard of Othram Labs? And it's like, no, what's that? And I'm like, oh my.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really good. I'm glad that you're on it. I'm glad that you can help out.
So if you think you might know something about the January 1992 murder of Carrie Gaskins, please call the Clermont County Sheriff's Office at 513-732-7500. You can also call the Investigations Department, 513-732-7545. And if you have a tip on a missing person or unsolved homicide or just want to suggest a case, please call us at 832-Tipster. That's 832-847-7837. Email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.